Good morning, Bears. Let's do this. DNA, two strands. Where do the strands come from? One parent, two strands. Why do they make all these different traits? Remember, features. We all have hair. Trait. What color hair? Feature. We all have eyes. Trait. What color eyes? Now, we saw in the spider's web and the spider's traits that a lot of this comes down to protein molecules and the different shapes of protein molecules. Today we're going to question and ask and try to figure out, why do some spiders and human beings have different shapes? So for example, as we saw in the sim, when you opened up a spider, these molecules had different shapes already. And then they had to combine with another shape. And if they did not match, and I think it was Joseph who had a great example of this, I just can't remember what it was, but if they did not match, then you're not going to get that trait. But where do those proteins come from that are already in the cells? We know we need starches for carbohydrates. We need protein for amino acids. So we have to feed our body for these proteins to work. But those existing proteins, they do not change. They are there with you from birth. And so if you don't have the protein traits to create the sticky spider web, well, guess what? You're not going to get a sticky spider web. Well, why is that? That's what we're going to figure out today. And we're also transitioning today from spiders, super spiders, to super people. We're going to dive into people today and how kind of like the last time, there's a glitch in the system in the blood for this article we're going to read, and we're going to see why that is, and that will give us clues onto these protein molecules and why you have certain ones. And then tomorrow we're going to dive into another super feature that very few people have, but we actually have somebody like that in our class, and it's going to be great fun to learn about that because it's fascinating on DNA and all the things we are learning about in a real life situation. All right, well, let's dive into this with a little fun. Before we go into humans, let's wrap out the spider's web. Now, we'll come back to spiders, I believe, in a couple of weeks. But right now, we're going to finish up spiders today and start talking about humans, superhumans with different DNA traits. But first, let's have a little fun with Spider-Man's silk.
In the recent film starring Tom Holland, Peter Parker cooks up his own webbing in his high school chemistry class.
Now, I'm going to stop that because last time they banned my video because I used somebody else's video footage. So what we're going to do is, if you're watching this video, just go click the link to this, which I will place into groups and or in the comments in the details of this YouTube video. Just look down there. I hope I remember to put it in there. Or you can just look up How Realistic is Spider-Man's Web Slinging Antics on YouTube and you will find it. Tech Insider. So our source, Tech Insider, that's kind of a tech magazine from Marvel. Let's see when it was done. 2019. Remember, whenever we're sourcing, we're looking for reliability. Who wrote it? Tech Insider. Seem like they're probably pretty smart. Science Insider, so they know science. And then here, when? June 28, 2019. That's fairly recent. Lots of views. So we're going to call this reliable. Let's give them a like. That's always a nice thing to do. So if you're in class, we will play this. If you're not in class, go find it. Great little video. Lots of science to find there. When I put you into a breakout room later, you can talk about what you find interesting. And it's just kind of fun to tie that into superheroes because we're super students and we're superhero class. All right. Now, next thing. I got a simple assignment for everybody to do. This is a sure sign that you're paying attention to me, and we're going to put this into chat, so focus. If you have not opened your slideshow yet, oh my goodness, please go do it. Go into science, hit the super spiders, super people, click it, click edit, open it. If you just do this, and I see you in Zoom every day, and you do this chat, I can give you a C, and I do not have to track your parents down and have conferences. And you can get a C and not a D. So please do this. It's like a search and find. Some of you might have already done it. When you have a slide like this, these are concept slides. They don't say it here, but if you look in the Amplify, I was doing concept slides for the last 7 years. they probably stole this idea from me. Instead of vocabulary, we call them concept slides. So go find every concept slide and move them to the top. So when I say top, it can be below our work, but near the top. So we have structure. Brandon has protein. And by the way, Brandon, I'll look at your slideshow right now. Scroll down, I scroll down, and it's just a search and find. Oh, function. Let's move it to the top. So everybody go down and put all of your concepts together. Now, some of you like to get creative. If you have extra time, you could research function. You could find a picture. You could design the slide. Don't have to do that unless I tell you to. For right now, don't do that. Right now, everybody, let's go find the function slides and move them to the top. Okay, so here we go. We have our function slides at the top. They don't have to be in any particular order. I think I found them all for Brandon, so Brandon's done. Gene, function, structure, protein. So this is kind of like a vocabulary or word wall in a classroom. So everybody should have that at the top. If I look at your slideshow, that tells me. If I look at your slideshow and you don't have this, I know you're not doing the work. So it's done. You're going to get a D. So it's pretty easy. Now, once you have this, then I come up and let's now look at Brandon's beautiful slideshow. Now I'm deciding, you have all that. You're in class every day. I'm like, this person probably has a C. Then I come in and I say, well, let's take a look if it's a B or an A. Well, right away, he's worked on his title slide. Brandon interacts in class every day. He's on his way to a B. Now he has his own words about protein molecules. I think that protein molecules lead to variation because different spiders, when they mate, create new spiders, which are different mixes of those two spiders. Then those proteins genetically modify each spider with their own traits. They each have different venom effects and bristle types. Then each spider has their own share of both spiders. Yes, each spider has their own share of both spiders. Not everything about both spiders, a share. Brandon, he's already pretty much at an A because he shows this is A-level work. He's done his other work. But let's go check the other things. He's answered his questions. These don't connect, not enough proteins. These are very flexible because it's not that many proteins. And this is a lot of proteins, so silk, not very flexible. He drew it to represent that. And he even answered this. Fantastic. He brought his video to the top to easily see it. He has his proteins information. He now has article clip notes. We do a lot in this class, I must admit. This is definitely A level. And of course, he has his vocabulary there. All right, now let's dive into today's assignment. For today's assignment, we're still talking about proteins, but now we're saying, why do Darwin's bark spiders make different proteins for silk flexibility? Because remember, these things are coming in, like I said in the beginning, but each spider makes their own. Why? Why do they have different shapes that don't fit together? We're going to dive into that by talking about people. We'll investigate this question. How can organisms make different protein molecules for a particular feature? Now notice we broaden the category. Instead of spiders, we're talking about organisms. Organisms are living things, including people. We're talking about protein molecules for particular features. We're going to dive into this article. Dr. Satari sent us an article about a blood disorder called hemophilia, which is caused by differences in proteins. This article is not about spiders, but it will help you understand how organisms can make different proteins for a trait in their cells. Remember, in this class we use active reading. Now we've gone over this a bunch of times. You read things closely. You can click words if you don't understand them. You want to ask questions as you read. You can annotate. We've gone over all that. Now I've created the article link in groups. Over here where we have our basics, you're going to see the article link. Let's hope it works. It's great if it works because then you guys, for today's assignment, they're making me log in again. For today's assignment, you guys can copy and paste from the annotations as we've all done before. And remember, it takes time to load. If it does not work, then you can use your screenshot feature to take small sections. You only need 3 small sections, and we're looking for things that give us evidence about why certain organisms, in this case people, have these certain molecules. So let's dive in and read the article, and we'll do one together.
Hemophilia, proteins, and genes. You fall off your bike and scrape your knee. Blood drips out, but soon a scab starts to form and the bleeding stops. Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, if you could zoom in to see what's happening on a molecular scale, it's not simple at all. Your blood includes 13 different protein molecules called clotting factors. When you injure yourself, these clotting factor proteins all connect and work together to form a solid clot, also known as a scab. If you were missing even one of those 13 proteins, the clot wouldn't form, and the dangerous bleeding would continue. This is exactly what happens in a disease called hemophilia. Causes of hemophilia. People with hemophilia are missing clotting factor proteins because of a problem with their genes. Different genes carry instructions for making different proteins. For every gene, there may be several possible versions. Different versions of a gene can also be called alleles. An organism has 2 copies of each gene. Those gene copies can either be the same version, homozygous, or different versions, heterozygous. If the gene copies are homozygous, just one type of protein is produced, since both gene copies give the same instructions. If the gene copies are heterozygous, 2 types of protein are produced, since each gene copy gives a somewhat different instruction. People with hemophilia have a version of the gene that doesn't have the right instruction.
Same. See that? Same. Homozygous is same. Hetero means different.
For making clotting factor protein. Without the right instructions, their cells can't make that protein, or they make a protein that doesn't work. Without functional clotting factor protein, the proteins in their blood can't make the connections needed to form clots and build scabs. Healthy people have at least one copy of the gene version that provides the right instructions for making all of the clotting factor proteins. Being able to form scabs may seem so basic that it's strange to think of it as a genetic trait, like having brown eyes or having freckles. However, just like those other traits, the ability to form scabs is a trait that is determined by proteins. To have that trait, you need to have those proteins, and to make those proteins, you need to have the genes that give your cells the instructions for making them. Treating hemophilia with proteins. Even though hemophilia is a serious disease, most hemophilia patients can live relatively normal lives if they get proper treatment. Hemophilia is caused by a missing protein, so doctors treat it by replacing that protein. Doctors inject clotting factor protein into a patient with hemophilia so the patient's blood clots the way it's supposed to. Injecting the protein into the body does not change the proteins the body produces. Instead, it supplies the protein the blood needs to clot properly. People with hemophilia need to have missing protein injected into their bodies throughout their lifetimes because the injected protein will be used up. The patients then need to be injected again for their blood to continue to form clots properly. For many years, the only way to get clotting factor protein was to separate the protein from donated blood. However, it takes a lot of blood to get just a little bit of clotting factor protein. Today, scientists can make lots of clotting factor protein by inserting human genes into hamster chromosomes. If you put the human gene for making clotting factor protein into the chromosomes in the nucleus of a hamster cell, the cell makes the protein. Even though it's a hamster cell, the cell makes clotting factor protein that's identical to clotting factor protein made in human cells. As long as the cell has the gene with instructions for making clotting factor protein, the cell will make the protein. Gene therapy for hemophilia. Hemophilia can be treated using clotting factor protein, but it can't be cured, for now at least. Scientists are researching possible cures for hemophilia. cures that could get the patient's own cells to produce clotting factor protein. For this kind of cure, scientists would have to figure out how to fix a patient's faulty gene for making clotting factor protein. If the faulty gene were fixed, the patient's cells could start making clotting factor protein naturally. Working to fix or replace genes is called gene therapy. Hemophilia can't be cured with gene therapy yet, but scientists are working on it.
Wow, pretty amazing actually. This gene therapy, you just never know. They're getting better and better at it. When they start curing things, more and more items with gene therapy, look out. Things could get nutty because we could start curing a lot of different glitches. And you just never know how soon that's going to come, but they're working at it all the time. All right, so let's get to what we're going to do right now. We're going to do the classic CER today for an A. I've laid it out in groups. What's an A, what's a B, what's a C? A C is you're working on your slideshow. A B is you're going to come into this article. Remember, I put the link. Try to get in this article. Much better if you do that because then you can do this. Anything about protein molecules, you can copy and paste. Now, we are trying to answer that question, so I don't know that that answers the question we're looking for. And what's the question is how do bodies or what makes different bodies have these different protein so they're just getting protein molecules. So they're giving that information there, but let's see if we can scroll down. Some people are missing. Now you can use that because if you're missing one, you can infer that, well, if you don't have the protein molecule from the beginning, then how is it going to fit? So you could just say some people do not have all the proteins needed to create different traits, and one of those traits is clotting. So this could be evidence. Now you could highlight, note, but what we really want to do is copy. And then if I were Brandon, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make a new slide. You click this. I'm going a little, some people should all know how to do this, but some people don't. And you just put evidence of protein molecules claim. And now what's our claim? Watch this, and Emma does this all the time. How can organisms make different protein molecules for a different feature? Well, we answered some of that with the solution with gene therapy. How do they make it? With their genes. You have to have the right genes to make the protein. So if you don't have the correct genes, you don't, and which is our DNA, our two strands, then you don't create the best protein. So we're answering this question, and you can change this later, Brandon, make it bigger. And now, what's one of our evidences? Now, I think evidence of protein. I forgot already. I messed up a little bit because I have to go back and copy and paste. So they're missing one of the proteins. There are different proteins here. I'm going to go down and get a better fact. Now, this picture is always good. Screenshot it. What about this? If they're missing genes, what about genes? Oh, there's a key fact. This whole thing might be good. Because if you don't have genes, now I'm going to copy. I'll do what I was meant to do last time. So there's our question. Now let's get some evidence. Well, boom, there's one. You need to go find two more for an A level, for a B level, I'm sorry. And then once you find two more, so let's call that one. Let's make a 2. And then we want to, 2. And then you'll put something there. And then a 3, you'll put something there. Now, if you get 3 pieces of evidence, that's copy and paste. You come in here, find something that explains about genes and about how genes impact the molecules and the proteins. And if you don't have the right gene, then you don't have the right protein. Now, once again, this is high level. It doesn't have to be perfect on the answer. If you don't get the perfect citations, that's fine. But if you get a citation, it can make it work. Being able to form scabs may seem basic. That's strange to think of a genetic trait like having brown eyes or having freckles. However, just like those other traits, the ability to form trabs is a trait determined by proteins. So that once again, we're tying traits to proteins to genes. So that one would work. So you scroll down and you find 3 pieces of evidence that you A-level student can turn into a CER to answer this question. How can organisms make different protein molecules for a particular feature? So when you answer a question, you're making a claim, you include your evidence, and you have your reasoning. So we're going to do that now. Probably don't have that much time in class as usual, but hopefully a little more than the last couple of times. And let's make a top slide CER. Now, Mr. Downs, I was lagging. I'm not sure what to do. Here it is. How can organisms make different protein molecules for a particular feature? Basics. Search slideshow, move vocabulary to top. Read article, link is here. Create top slide, 3 to 5 citations from article showing evidence from article to answer above question. Write your reasoning on why the cited evidence supports the claim. Here's the claim. People, animals have different proteins which cause them to have different traits. There's your first sentence of your CER. Copy it, use it. A level, B level, C level, D level. It's all right there. All right, let's get going because tomorrow we go into more super students. Basics, one step at a time. Move your concepts to the top. Then try to read the article, get some notes from it. And if you're really ready to go, write your CER. Include a picture if you'd like. All right, let's do this.